Well, hello and welcome to another edition of Health Solutions with Shawn and Janet Needham, where Team Needham discusses everything healthcare. I'm your host, Shawn Needham, along with my wonderful wife, Janet, and our frisky cat, Wilson. We're going to see how long she's going to let us keep her up here. She's already jumped down once. She doesn't really know what to think about it. As you can tell, she looks kind of freaked out. So today we are super excited to be talking about fasting. And is fasting dangerous? You get people that say it's dangerous to fast. Medical doctors I've seen talk. Yeah, there goes Wilson. Medical doctors talk about how it's dangerous to fast. And let's just define fasting first of all. Janet, how would you define fasting?
Well, if we really look historically, it's a lot different than what we do right now. Right now, most people are tuned into what's called intermittent fasting. So basically, you don't eat for so many hours. But historically, if we look at people who have done it for religious reasons or for health reasons, it can be a day, it can be 2 days, it can be a week. But usually in our culture right now, we're looking at people talking about fasting for, so many hours throughout the day before having a meal.
Yeah, and there's been reports of people that fasted over a month. There was this one guy, he was severely, morbidly obese, like 500, 600 pounds, something like that, or maybe more. And I don't know the details of the story, but it just popped in my mind. His name was Angus Young. No, not the rock star Angus Young, the guitar player of AC/DC. But his name's Angus Young, and he fasted for a year, nothing but water, and I think some vitamin supplements or something, or electrolytes or something. Um, so obviously, now I'm not saying that that's healthy, but obviously him being 500 pounds is not healthy either. So, but obviously we have reserve. We have what's called, our fat reserves mostly is how we store energy. There's other ways too, like our glycogen. But for long-term energy, we store fat. And one of the things is that we're really efficient at storing fat because historically, when we hunted and gathered, there were times of where we didn't have food, so we needed to store calories as energy, and that's why we store fat. That's why we're really good at storing fat. Unfortunately, now that we have an abundance of food in America, then we just store too much fat because we're always overeating. So um, fasting can be one way to restore our a healthy metabolism. And fasting can be, yeah, I see our cat running around now. She wants out. She's hilarious. She's like a little Houdini. She got out of the got out of her little area last night and woke us up this morning. So anyway, what do they say? 20 and 4, there's a 4-hour eating window, so you fast 20 hours, or you know um 16 and 8, whatever that number is, you eat in an 8-hour period. That's not much fasting necessarily, but 16 hours in my opinion is pretty easy to go for every day. Basically what you do is you eat dinner, and you don't eat until lunchtime again. And even that, you can eat just a light lunch. But if you're focusing on good satiating foods, i.e., mostly meat and mostly protein, um, you can go for 24. You can teach your body to go for 24 hours fairly easily, fasting. But you have to eat the right things, and eating junk food does not do it because it's not satiating. So, but if you focus on good, healthy protein, mostly meat, it's pretty easy to teach your body to go 24 hours without fasting. So, what are some other benefits of fat without eating? I
Well,
should say,
before
fasting.
before we go past that, I mean, one of the things too to remember is that, especially the people that I know that do like 5 to 7 day fasting long periods, they hydrate themselves well. They are not going to be dehydrated. So that is a point to remember. And usually you use some electrolytes or broth or something with that. But the benefits are, like Shawn alluded to earlier, is it helps kind of trick our body back into a better metabolism. So that being said, that, we have a very smart body. It says, okay, this is different. And so I need to adjust, and I'm going to adjust for right now. And I'm going to burn the storage that we have versus, for the energy that we need. So that being said, it can kickstart your metabolism. It also can help with, I think, with bad habits, because a lot of times one of the things that people don't count in their calories is just the snacking throughout the day. And so we become more mindful of what we are doing and when we are doing that.
And I saw a report, and who knows how true this is, but I mean, use yourself as an example. I can use myself as an example when I'm not mindful about my eating habits. But the average American eats 15 times a day. Think about that. So that could include, okay, once your coffee in the morning and you fill it up with, whatever you have in your coffee. But if it's not black, then, and you put cream in it or whatever, you're not fasting. If you have black coffee, that's still fasting, in my opinion. And then an hour later, you have, even if it's healthy, let's say you have a handful of almonds, if you consider that healthy, which I consider that fairly healthy, although almonds can add up with calories, nuts can add up with calories very quickly, because they're not very satiating. So that's two, and that's only an hour into the day. So just think about that. So, and that's where those calories add up. So people say, well, I only eat 1,200 calories a day and I just keep gaining weight. Well, I recommend that you track your calories and track everything you put in your mouth and see if you're really eating 1,200 calories a day. My guess is you don't, because 1,200 calories is not that much, especially when you start eating packaged food and just eating throughout the day, because it's really easy to eat 200 calories here, and you do that 15 times, there's 3,000 calories. So, and a handful of nuts is 170 calories. So there you go.
Serving sizes is really misunderstood, because sometimes you can read the back of it and it's for 2 servings, it's the X amount of calories. So be careful with that. But the biggest thing I think is if you move towards real food, whole food, things that rot, things that don't, you can't store forever, then you're most likely going to be full. And then if you don't know what a serving size is, there's scales that are available. And I don't like necessarily to be a slave to that. But at the same time, if you don't know, start measuring and start realizing what that looks like and what that's like. And the nice thing about, I think, when you do fast is when you do come to the table to eat, actually food tastes really good. It tastes better because you look forward to something, and then actually once you taste it, because it's real, it's better. I mean, Shawn and I have this inside joke. We were traveling a few years back, and we went and got a coffee. It sounded so good in the morning. And do you remember, was it Krispy Kreme?
Yeah.
Well, they asked us if we wanted a flavoring.
Yeah, it was Krispy Kreme
and
coffee.
We haven't ate, at least I haven't ate, that I can remember, a donut in years.
It's been a while.
If I have, it's been, it's just not in my memory bank, because it's just something we just let go of, not something that we really cared about.
Because I was a guy that used to be able to, and could probably still do it if I started again. I could eat a dozen Krispy Kreme donuts one sitting, no problem.
But the smell of that alone,
we almost vomited.
We are almost like, okay, we don't. No.
They put their glaze. They have their flavored glaze in the coffee.
No, it was
bad. And it was like.
Right. And part of that, I think, is just relearning. I mean, Shawn and I, again, haven't ate at McDonald's for years. And just the smell of that place is not, it doesn't hit, a place that makes me feel good. However, if I come home and he's grilling something on the grill, that smells good. So my point is that when we start shifting to things that are healthier for us, our mind and our body starts changing too about how we look and how we feel about things. Because unfortunately or fortunately, food is kind of tied to um, responses, whether it's emotional responses or, happy responses because we know we're going to be with a gathering of people or whatever, but it triggers different things. So, kind of be mindful of that. And the longer we are away from something that isn't healthy for us, the less I care about it.
That is so true. You can really retrain your taste buds. And you also, when you teach your body how to fast, um, you can really understand what your hunger signals truly are.
Right.
And I can tell you this, the 24-hour period is the hardest part. Once you get past, if you're eating the right stuff, once you get past 24 hours, it's fairly easy. Because for one thing, think about it. Once you get past 24 hours, you're probably going to go to bed. And then, you're going to be approaching 36 hours shortly, especially if you don't eat breakfast. And it is pretty easy to make it to 48 hours. So I know probably once a year, I do a 48-hour fast. And once a week, I try to do at least a 20 or 24-hour fast. And we do fast or eat around our workout schedule, depending on what our workouts are looked like. And I think that's important. You should eat different on the days that you are more active,
Right.
or less active. The days that you're less active, you should probably eat very, very little, if anything. Um, because you're just not burning the calories. And speaking of that, one of the benefits of fasting is to lower your blood sugar, and not necessarily lower your blood sugar as much as going to lower your insulin. And I will tell you, any diabetics out there or pre-diabetics out there that are watching, if you have a doctor that tells you that fasting is dangerous for diabetics, I mean, seriously, get a new doctor. Now, I will say this, if you're on medications that can put you into hypoglycemia, low blood sugar, you need to be careful with fasting, or you need to monitor your medications and your blood sugar very closely. Because here's one thing that I can guarantee. I guarantee very few things as a pharmacist or as a person in general. I do guarantee you this. If you are pre-diabetic, if you're a diabetic, fast for 24 hours and find out what happens to your glucose. I guarantee you it's going to go down. And if that's the case, then that is going to make you realize, if anybody told you that diabetes, type 2 diabetes, is not reversible, they lied to you. So that's a challenge for a type 2 diabetic. Fast for 24 hours, see what happens to your glucose. After you see that response, then you realize that you are in control of that. And it's not some magic medication that is going to lower your blood sugar. It's you and eating habits, right?
So, one of the things too about triggering hunger, knowing the difference, like Sean says, knowing your body a little bit is the signals. A lot of times we might think that we're hungry, but we're really just thirsty. We need to hydrate. So that's something that people need to learn how to do. And I don't mean just straight water, because I feel like straight water there's nothing wrong with it, but you might, if you are fasting, you might need some electrolytes just to make sure that you're not um, going to be dehydrated that way. But, you know, the 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 topic of lowering our response of insulin, or getting our insulin in the right place, is really important, because diabetics become resistant to their insulin. It's not that they don't make it unless they're a type 1. It's just that your body's not responding to it. So we don't want that all the time. And intermittent fasting is great for that. The other place that we've seen, and we have a friend who has used it. She is a lady that has went through cancer. And for her, she uses it to help her body regenerate and be healthier that way in the cell turnover. So there's other reasons for that. And even if um, maybe you're not a religious person, a lot of people that in our history, they would just take times to fast for certain reasons. and they would pick a weekend or a time, and similar to things that Shawn has said. And I think sometimes we during this time frame, lose this power that food has over us if we have a problem with food.
And one of the benefits of fasting is called autophagy. And basically, literally what that means is auto means self and phagy means to eat. So basically, when you fast, it gives, and you don't put anything else in your body besides water, um, it gives your body a chance to self eat all the bad things in your body. So whether it be toxins or, um, you know, anything that your body is trying to get rid of. Because every time we do put something else in our body, we put something else in our body that our body has to deal with. And every time you put something in your body, there's some kind of metabolism that has to take place, and that energy has to be spent doing detox, doing a metabolism, breaking down foods, all that kind of stuff. So if you give your body a break without putting anything else in it, it gives your body a chance to make everything else better. So fasting can help strengthen your immune system. It can help strengthen your metabolism, depending on the timing of the fast and all that and how long it is. But I think it's very beneficial. And if fasting was dangerous, think about this. If fasting was dangerous and we needed to be eating all the time, we would have not have been created with a mechanism to store fat. There are certain animals, for instance, that don't store fat very well. River otters. River otters have, they live in cold water and they don't have blubber like a seal or whales. So they have to spend a lot of energy staying warm. And the only way to keep all that energy is to eat. So a river otter is probably one of the most efficient predators around that eats, they eat 15, a little river otter eats 15 fish a day, which is incredible. But it has to do that because it doesn't store fat very well because it's swimming all the time and it doesn't store fat. It doesn't have blubber. So it's got to be eating all the time. But humans, we store fat because evolutionarily speaking, our bodies were trained to be able to be without food for a while.
So I'm not promoting this, obviously, for infants. We know that would not be
No,
a
that's
good, good idea.
Great point.
But really, adults, even teenagers. I know our youngest son, Jordan, struggled for a while with weight issues. And when he was working through things as a teenager, he had times where he did some intermittent fasting. Now, I don't know if he still does today, but obviously, the benefit of that for him was also a mental thing because he learned how to look at serving sizes and learned how to read his body and learned how to say, okay, I'm full now or I'm not full. Our oldest son has never had that problem. If he's full, he's done. He just never pushes it beyond that. Maybe the strawberries he could have done that with, but that being said, his eating, how he learned how to stop eating when he was full was very young, and our second wasn't the case. So sometimes it can be a powerful thing in our own psyche to say, hey, I can control this. And it doesn't have to be an obsession, but it can be just a good way to get on the path of understanding, hey, I'm really hungry now, or I'm not. Or like Shawn said, balance around your workouts, learning how, or your lifestyle of what you're doing. Because like, for example, for us, Monday is really more of a dust day for us, or at least for me. So I'm not moving as much as other days.
Yeah. So definitely eat around your activities. Think about, and just think rationally about your food choices, what is good, what is bad, and just think about it history wise. So think about history wise, thousands of years ago. What was our diet mostly consist of? Calorie wise, it's definitely was probably a red meat source, whether it be beef, whether it be elk, whether it be lamb, whether it be deer. And think about what happened. So we might go for days without eating because we didn't have refrigeration for one. So you couldn't store meat in a refrigerator. There's definitely other ways that people did that. They had some places had ice all year round where they could, cut ice out of the river and store it in straw bales and stuff. They had it year round. You could dry meat and all that kind of stuff, but mostly you were probably eating after a hunt. So after you exercised, walking, running, carrying the hunt, cleaning it, butchering it, all that, then you ate. So that was after all that energy. So two things from that. I would take two things away from that. First of all, red meat is not bad for us. If animal protein, animal fat was bad for us, we would have died as humans thousands of years ago. And we've been eating after we exercised for years. So that's got to be good for us. Necessarily, and this was in times before we had scheduled workouts and all that, because we didn't have scheduled workouts. You had to just do day to day. You had to move day to day to live. So there were no such thing as a gym until about 50 years ago, really. Right?
No,
Well, maybe longer.
My dad never went to a gym.
Yeah, right.
He was lifting, walking, and moving all day long. So, the calorie needs were totally very consistent. And I think people ate very consistently too. I don't remember growing up where you were always having snacks. There were certain times of the day that you ate, and you ate mindfully. I tell people this because my parents were, clean your plate, but it wasn't about clean your plate. It was learning how to put the proportions on your plate so you don't waste it. So, one of the tricks that I use for myself and share with women and people when we talk about calories is, make your protein a priority first. I'm not 100% carnivore. I like fruits and vegetables, but I will say this. When you make your protein the priority, you do feel full faster. And so sometimes that takes away, that starch of that potato or the extra nutrients that you don't need. And so adding that first and top to the list, I think solves a lot of issues, because by the time you're done eating that, the other stuff isn't quite as important.
No, I mean, that is so true. There's many times where I put, extra potatoes on my plate, and I'll start out eating the meat, and then next thing you know, I just don't even want any potatoes. So, or very, very few of them. So that is why I think it's important to eat real food and focus on the meat first. And you'll probably eat less because meat is so satiating. It's got, all kinds of nutrients, and including fat and protein. So it just, and we thrived on it as humans for thousands of years. So I think that's very important. And I'm not against pork or chicken either. Although I do think beef is probably, chicken is pretty satiating. One of the problems with pork is how it's prepared. And it's easier to overeat some of that stuff, bacon and stuff like that, because the way it's been cured, or maybe there's extra sugar in it. They put sugar in it. It's kind of with the sausage, they do that a lot. So you need to be careful with that. But still, I think it's still a very good meat source. And chicken and pork are definitely less expensive than beef. So don't buy. You can eat a good meal for this is no lie, for $2 or $3. Don't buy the lie that eating healthy is expensive. It's just completely a lie. I mean, a pound of ground beef is $4.50 at Walmart. And that's a pound of ground beef is probably enough for two people for two meals if they're not super active. So 8 ounces of ground beef each is enough for one meal. That's a $2.25. So eating healthy can be very inexpensive. Chicken and pork would be even cheaper. So, and eggs. What about eggs, Janet? What do you think about eggs?
Absolutely. I mean, God created, I think, eggs to start a new life. I think that it's crazy we vilified it. So a lot of nutrients packed into a small caloric amount. So nutrient dense there. So there again too, that's another thing I've learned as a trick is, if I eat my eggs or egg and my protein, then all the bread stuff that people try to bring in, and I'm not saying that sometimes we do if we're gonna, or after a long ride or something, but if we're just grabbing breakfast, it's so different. You're so much fuller after eating something like that versus you know having a bagel, or you might feel full for a while, or toast, but that feeling of satisfaction does not last as long, so the nutrients are not as good. So and I grew up where we ate a lot of eggs, and my ancestors lived a long life. So I'm not buying
Yeah,
I'm
you
not
don't think
buying it.
the eggs kill us?
No, I don't. So
Yeah, they're high in cholesterol. Good. Our brains need a lot of cholesterol. Every cell in our body needs a lot of cholesterol.
right.
We would die without it. So don't buy the cholesterol scam, because that's what it is. It's a scam. Cholesterol does not cause cardiovascular disease. Um, One thing I want to say about eggs and or food in general is always think about this, because I think about this with myself. So when you're full from eating meat, sometimes there'll be some other food. There a lot of times as Americans we have other food around, and maybe even on our plate. So let's say you can't eat any more meat, or you can't eat any more eggs because you just feel so full. But I will tell you, in my experience, I can always eat more toast or more bread, or more potato salad or something like that. So I have to mindfully tell myself, wait a minute, if I can't eat another egg or any more meat, then I must really be full. So why should I eat all this other carbohydrate stuff when my body's telling me that I'm already full? It's just a reminder how, and I don't necessarily like using this word, but it's just a reminder how addictive carbohydrates can be. And I do not vilify carbohydrates. I do not at all. I just think you need to be very mindful and very careful about eating them. So tell yourself this: if you can't eat another egg, or you can't eat any more meat, then why should you eat any more food? I really think that that's a really good tip that can stop you from adding lots of extra calories into your meals. So Janet, as we wind this podcast up, how do you want to finish this podcast?
So if you plan to do an extended fast, remember that, you might feel, and the first time I think Shawn and I did this, we did it like a liver detox thing. You might not feel the greatest the first few times you've done it. But as you go along, you'll get past that. Just remember that. So we choose days again that we aren't going to be having a long endurance ride, or it just makes it easier when you set it up on a day that you can. And then, don't be afraid of it. Give it a try. There's nothing wrong without having, calories over a certain amount of time. We've done it for centuries. But also, make sure to drink, hydrate yourself, and then, reflect about how you felt, because honestly, a lot of times I don't even think about it anymore. I mean, I just know this is the day we're going to do this, and we just, it's part of our habit and routine.
Yeah, and you might have to work up to extended fast, whether it be 24 hours or 48 hours. Try 12. 12 is pretty easy to start
Yep.
with. So eat dinner at night. Don't eat after 7 o'clock, and then don't eat breakfast in the morning, and that's gonna
Get you to 12.
that's gonna get you to 16 probably if you don't eat until lunchtime.
Yeah.
So, and then just as you progress, you can just extend that time. So um, I think fasting is a very good tool for many health benefits, including healthy body weight, but that's just the start of it. Healthy metabolism, healthy blood sugars, healthy insulin levels,
Detoxing.
detoxing your body, just giving your body a rest from putting other stuff in it. So if you guys have any questions, please feel free to comment, share this. If you have any friends that don't have Facebook, realize that we stream live on LinkedIn, we stream live on YouTube, we stream live on X, formerly known as Twitter. I wonder when I'll quit saying that. It's hard to say just X, but I think people are catching on to that now.
Yeah.
So like and subscribe to those platforms. We're on all the podcast forms too, Spotify, Apple, iTunes, all that good stuff. So like, share, and subscribe. We really appreciate it. Without our listeners and viewers, we would not be so successful in our podcast. And stay tuned for Monday, our regularly scheduled podcast, 12:30 to 1:30. I'm sorry, 12:30 to 1:30 Pacific Standard Time. We are going to have Bob Snow on our show, and he is a airline pilot that has a vaccine related story. So you don't want to miss out on that. And tune in to Health Solutions with Shawn and Janet Needham. Thank you for tuning in today. We really appreciate you guys.